I was standing in the center of my own restaurant, Heritage, in what felt like a server's uniform. The Ashford family's gaze pierced me as I balanced a tray of champagne flutes, wearing a costume. My brother-in-law had recently been promoted to senior partner at a prestigious financial firm, and it was Miles's big night. They decided to host the party at my Brooklyn home, not out of respect for me, but because it was practical. They thought I would offer them a bargain. Even though I wasn't scheduled to serve tonight an hour ago, my manager called, voice tight, saying, "We need personnel." So here I was, Ken Ward, the man who built this place from nothing. The air smelled of roasted garlic and rosemary, but it couldn't cover the sourness of their murmurs. I was serving beverages to people who looked at me like I was dirt on their shoes. As I placed a glass down, one of the guests, a waiter, one of her relatives, said just loud enough for me to hear, "Clarissa's husband?" She was laughing with her parents, Dorian and Miriam, across the room. Her dark hair pushed up as if she didn't notice me. I wanted to believe she was just caught in the moment. But her eyes were tearing me apart. She had been withdrawing for months, maybe even years. Since I left my previous life behind, I moved through the tray carefully, making sure the glasses didn't shake. Every inch of this restaurant was my dream. The open kitchen, the sizzle of steaks under the brass light fittings, the reclaimed oak tables, the barbecue that brought people together. But to them, this was just a structure where I performed. Tonight, Miles was the main attraction, shaking hands with clients who likely made more in a month than I did in a year, all sleek hair and fitted suits. When I passed by, I caught his sneer, sharp enough to shatter glass. "Hey, keep those drinks coming," he said. "Yeah." I clenched my jaw. I could have told him I paid for half the alcohol he was drooling over, but I wasn't here to cause trouble. I was here to make sure the evening went smoothly, even if that meant swallowing their words like bitter wine. I didn't mind helping. Out. I'd smash tables. I'd wash dishes. I'd done it before, back in the early days when it was just Priya and me against the world. Those days taught me more than any corner office ever could. But tonight wasn't about nostalgia. It was about surviving in a room full of people who didn't give a damn. Dorian, with his silver hair and constant frown, leaned over to Miriam and said, "I thought I'd failed at life." She pursed her lips, but I didn't need to hear them. I knew what they were saying. They had never hidden their disappointment, not since I married their daughter, not since I disregarded their rules in order to help her succeed. Success to them meant bank accounts and titles, not a man in an apron honing a beurre blanc sauce. I looked at Clarissa again, hoping, just hoping, for a glance, a nod, anything, to show she was still with me. But she was in deep conversation with a man in a blazer, flashing the same smile she used to save for me. I placed the tray on a side table and flexed my hands, trying to ease the pressure in my chest. Part of me wanted to walk out, let them run their own damn party, but I couldn't do that to Noah or the staff. They were family, the kind that didn't judge you for chasing what mattered. I looked around the room, clinking glasses, laughter. Everyone seemed to belong, except me. They didn't just see me as a waiter, they saw me as less. Even my wife, who once stayed up late dreaming with me, now echoed their words, wondering why I couldn't just go back. Go back to that life, to the safety, to the structure. I picked up a plate of canapes and smoked salmon bites. Joy had helped prep them that morning. As I began another lap, the room buzzed louder. Congratulations for Miles, praises for the firm, and whispers I wasn't supposed to hear. She really settled for that? Can you believe it? Each step felt heavier. I built this place to prove something, to myself, but now I was carrying more than just food. I was carrying every judgment, every dismissive laugh. And then I heard Miranda's voice, crisp, brimming with disgust. "It's embarrassing. Our daughter deserves better than a man who works as a servant." A few heads turned. Not hers. The tray swayed in my hands, the glasses clinking. I caught Clarissa's eyes. She said nothing, just looked at my throat. It constricted, and for a brief second, I thought about leaving. Not just the party, but everything. The marriage, the family, the constant fight to be enough. But I didn't. I straightened up, balanced the glasses, and kept walking, because that's what I do, even when it hurts. By the time I got back to the kitchen, my shirt was stuck to my back. It wasn't just the heat. Noah was barking orders, but when he saw me, he paused. "You good, boss?" he asked in a low voice. I forced a grin. Couldn't fall apart here, not in the place I built. "Yeah, just keeping the machine running," I said, placing the tray down. He didn't push, just clapped my shoulder and got back. To work. I stayed there a moment, tried to breathe, told myself I could handle one night, one party. I didn't know then. In a matter of hours, everything would change. Their perfect little world was about to collapse, and all I knew was that I was still standing, and maybe that meant something. I pondered what people would say if they realized that someone had exchanged their future for a pastime, and that no amount of explanation could change that. How it felt to enter this location each morning and see my name on the list. Or how close we had come to losing everything. I went to the sink to rinse a few errant glasses, but they would probably just shake their heads and say it was a waste. The cool water brought me back to the moment, when the party was in full flow and the air was heavy with ambition and perfume, and I remained outside, observing. I didn't mind lending a hand tonight because nobody needed me, and I had never been. Every time I caught one of their looks, it was like a reminder that I didn't belong, even if I was proud to get my hands dirty. In their reality, my wife's parents were seated at their table, both of them observing Miles, as Dorian wrapped his arm over Miriam's chair. He was their legacy, and I once believed that if I put forth enough effort, they would recognize who I was building here. But after years of their snide remarks and aloof demeanor, I had begun to question whether it was even worth attempting. They were looking for a son-in-law who would fit their mold. The day I cleaned my hands and returned to the dining room, after leaving my former life, I collected a plate of appetizers. When I passed by, the crowd parted for me, but not out of deference. Rather, it seemed as though I was merely a man carrying a tray, someone they didn't need to acknowledge. Even when their remarks could be heard above the music, I maintained a courteous smile and raised my head. "He used to be something, didn't he?" one of her relatives remarked, not lowering her voice. "So unfortunate." I continued to move, concentrating on the tray's weight and my walking rhythm in an attempt to block out the sting. I had heard worse over the years, but perhaps, since my wife wasn't there to ease it, it felt heavier